Welcome to this month's episode of Chat with the Chairman. I'm Pam Hepburn, CFMA's 2021-22 Chairman, and today I'm visiting with Cal Beyer. Cal is the Vice President of Workforce Risk and Worker Wellbeing for CSDZ. Hi, Cal, how are you?
I'm great, Pam. How are you?
I'm doing really well.
So nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too, and thanks for sitting down with me today.
Yeah, congratulations on being chairperson for CFMA and really excited about the leadership opportunities you have ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm having a good time. We're a few months into it and we haven't broken anything yet, so I'll try to keep that up. So you are a super volunteer for CFMA. There's a lot of things we can talk about that you've done for CFMA as a volunteer. But before we start that, I want to find out what you do in your spare time other than CFMA, if you actually have any spare time after you do all that.
Well, it's funny you use that expression because I'm always squeezing things in, and I use that expression, spare time. My wife and I have 5 children, so there wasn't a whole lot of spare time when the kids were younger. I coached youth sports, and that was a passion. I wasn't skilled enough as a player to do it as I got to elite levels, but I really enjoyed taking young children and then kind of molding them, teaching them power of teamwork. So that was one of my real passions. I also love to read. I love to write, more for my own pleasure, but probably hockey and soccer are 2 hobbies I have. I'm a big sports fan, and those are my 2 favorite games.
Awesome.
We share a love of the Packers also.
Yes, we do. And in fact, I was going to wear my cheese hat and I forgot it. So it's still at home.
I was hoping, I've been smiling. I was waiting for maybe you to pop the cheese hat on.
No, I forgot it. Sorry. I could have worn, I have cheese head earrings too. I could have worn those, but no such today.
And I know we talked about possibly wearing jerseys
yes,
as well.
Yes, we didn't do that either. So I know you're passionate about helping people, but you also do some work with some important charities too. Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. My parents taught us to get involved, and they were early advocates for social justice. And my wife and I were really deliberate about raising children that understood the responsibility to give back and the opportunities to grow from those learning opportunities. So our family has been involved in a lot of charities. Many are faith-based, like Compassion International, or a group called Mercy Ships, or like Union Gospel Mission. I've been involved in some addiction treatment and recovery programs. And then globally, a group that I just am passionate about is called Kiva. And that is a microfinance, micro lending. It taught me about sustainable charitable contributions. And each of these groups was about sustainability. It was about building capacity. It was about empowering people. It wasn't a handout, it was a hand up. And that was a lesson we wanted to teach our children is get involved, sweat equity, kind of like CFMA. Don't just be a mailbox member, be an active member. And these were ways that you could contribute. So Kiva, you make these little micro loans, $25 each. The default rate is less than 1.5%. It's amazing. We've done loans to 64 different countries across the world, and the impact that you have by supporting families and communities. The power of empowerment is their loans to groups, and they support one another, but they're learning about economic development. They're learning about budgeting and finance and how to use technology in their small emerging businesses. It's just the coolest thing. Every month when it's payback day on the loans, I get excited about going back out to the website and making the next set of loans.
And so you just do it with the same contribution that you've already made?
Yeah, you pay a fee to support the loan, but the gift of giving in that regard, it's just priceless. It's hard to describe, but it's probably one of the biggest joys in my life.
That is amazing.
It's a really cool activity.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can see I'm holding back
Was it,
big
you
smiles.
said it was Kiva. Is that their website?
Yeah, kiva.org. I'd learned about this concept of the bottom of the pyramid. 99% of the world's population was living on less than mostly sustainable income, and was thinking about, boy, anyone can write a check, but how can you make this sustainable? And when I learned about microfinance, micro lending, I got really excited. And it's just a dynamic way to learn about the world and to make a big difference. So I encourage folks to check it out.
That's really awesome, Cal.
Thank you, Pam.
I can tell that making an impact is really important to you. And I know that you've done that in a lot of ways. And I don't know if you realize that you made an impact on me very early. It was the first CFMA conference I ever attended in 2009. And you and Brian Cooney did a risk management class. There was like a mini conference,
Yes.
one of the short ones on the weekend. And I remember that was the first session that I attended at that conference. And one of the things that made an impact on me was you stood up and you explained where the exits were and what the emergency evacuation plan was for that day. And I thought that was really, it was a way that you demonstrated that you cared about the audience and that you took emergency planning really seriously, so seriously that you did it right there on stage and had a plan for us that day. And then the other thing I remember from that really had an impact, and I still do it today every time I go to a class or a conference, is I don't remember if it was you or Brian suggested that we write down 3 things at the end of the session, write down 3 things that we intended to try out or pursue or learn more about before we got up and went on to the next class. Like, take a minute and think about what are the 3 things from this session I really want to concentrate on. So I did that. I thought it was a good idea. And I did that with every class at that conference. And then the next year, when it was time to ask if I could attend the CFMA conference again, I had this long list of things. And I was able to show my boss all the things from the conference that we had actually put into place over the year. So that was great. And he did let me attend, even though it was in Hawaii.
Wow.
I got to attend because there were so many actual tangible things from that conference that had impacted our company. And thanks to you for telling me to write it down.
What a great testimonial. I think back to my years on conference planning committee, and we were working on that justification to attend the conference. That would be a perfect testimonial. And the first item that you shared was really important to me and Brian Cooney, who's now retired, but he was a CFMA member of tremendous impact in my career, but also as a dear friend. And we had the opportunity to teach that class. And there were times when we would do our walkthrough before a facility, we would see emergency exits that were blocked or locked. And we made it a commitment every time we did one of our classes, we were going to do it. And there weren't a lot of AEDs, those automatic electrical defibrillators.
Yeah.
But we were challenging people. You got 1,000 people here at a conference. Why don't you have an AED? So we were having those tough conversations, being risk management practitioners. But I love hearing that story. Thank you for sharing that. I'll let Brian know. We always wanted to add value. And that class was emergency preparedness and disaster response. Mm-hmm. And that was a fun one. So thank you.
There were other things I learned from the class too, but those are 2 things that really have impacted, I think, my career in a really big way.
Well, that's incredible. And the first CFMA conference I attended was kind of life-changing as well. I set a goal, like the quality of education was so good, those 6 learning tracks, I was mesmerized. Whenever I could get out of the booth, I was an exhibitor that first year. I was going to classes and just so many great learning opportunities. And I set a goal. I want to be knowledgeable enough to speak at this conference sometime in the next 10 years. And what a great organization we serve and support.
Yeah, it really is. And it's clear from talking to you, Cal, that you really deeply care about people. And I think that's one of the things that makes you such a great person to help champion CFMA's suicide prevention in the construction industry efforts. How did you get involved in suicide prevention in construction?
Yeah, and Pam, that story goes back a long way. I worked in healthcare through high school and college, and it probably saved my life. I was a really high achiever as a young adolescent, pushed myself really hard, very challenging experiences as an early teenager. Thought one escape could be pain medications. I thought another escape might ultimately be suicide, but I knew I was put on earth for a reason. And I chose to put my heart into taking care of people. When I worked in healthcare, my first job was taking specimens to a lab, but every job mattered, but I thought I was saving lives. And it made such an impact on me. I knew I couldn't be a doctor because I didn't have that mental toughness. I cared, I thought, too much, and I might get too emotionally involved. And I recognized what a challenge that was. But I started graduate school in healthcare administration. Medicare reform hit. It was going to be hard to find a job. I went to get a degree in city administration, worked for a city, worked for a county, had the opportunity to consult with police, fire, healthcare systems, universities, colleges. I got good at this behavioral health, teaching people how to use employee assistance programs. And then what happened was in 1992 to 94, I started doing suicide prevention in jails. I recognized that that was a crisis and didn't even really connect those dots until years later. But I moved to construction in 1996, moved from Chicago to the East Coast, post 9/11, seeing contractors work side by side with first responders. And they had peer groups, they had EAPs. We didn't have any of that. There were no support structures. And when we called contractors, they're like, this is what we do. We're tough. We go in like firemen to burning buildings and we fix stuff. We're fine. Our people are tough. And then a few years later, we started hearing about some of the challenges and pathologies. We heard about domestic violence, DUIs. We heard about people dying prematurely. Some of those turned out to be suicide. And decided that we needed to get better at taking care of people when bad things happen. And so by the time Hurricane Katrina hit, we were better prepared. And through CFMA, we've made a huge difference in our industry. It's unbelievable. I pinch myself.
Well, you've certainly done a lot and continue to do a lot for our organization and just the overall well-being of construction employees. I'm in awe talking to you.
Well,
What advice? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, it's amazing what our industry and particularly what we started at CFMA. And now you look at how this has morphed with the great leadership of so many leaders and volunteers across the country. It's amazing. CFMA, I'm just grateful.
Well, we're lucky to have you. What advice would you have for a person who isn't comfortable taking the lead with suicide prevention in their industry or with their chapter?
Yeah, I think that is a challenge. It could be a heavy topic. Some of us have had that personal lived experience. It can be painful. It can be upsetting. It can be nerve-wracking. It can be outside our comfort zone. But everyone has a role to play. And I think if we find that role, one thing I like to encourage people is to learn. So a first point would be to just learn. Continue to understand why this is a challenge in our industry. Apply it to your company. Think about the people. Think about your sphere of influence. Recruit others is another positive example. Empower others. Find a way to build a team. Don't try to tackle this alone. That's the strength that I've learned through CFMA. Make it a team sport, not a spectator sport. So I think really what I'm encouraging people to do is put yourself on that outer edge of your comfort zone and stretch. And people will meet you at that point. And then invite others to join you on that journey. And if you go hand in hand with someone else or a small group of people, you literally can change your corner of the world. People will respond. They'll let you know that they appreciate what you're doing, and you'll see the difference. It's building that caring culture is kind of what I'm describing.
That is really good advice. Really good advice. I think there are a lot of potentially reluctant leaders out there, people who would be willing to be a part of the team like you described, but not really comfortable taking the, the point position. So that idea of building a team and taking others with you is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I love that word, reluctant leader, because I think everyone can be a leader at every level of the organization. And if we think about our responsibility in our companies as strategic leaders, it's to build more leaders. It's to build capacity in our organizations. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to have superpowers. It's just being yourself and letting people know you care. And I think that's what CFMA, the spirit of our teamwork, our leadership, our lifelong learning commitment, this is just a perfect place to jump in. And there's a lot of people, a lot of resources, a lot of opportunities to get involved. So I like that term, reluctant leader. I might recruit you to help me write an article on that.
About
maybe one of your
leadership.
chairperson's columns.
So you've done so much volunteering. We talked just about a little part of the classes you've taught and the things you've done for CFMA. You've written articles, you've done all kinds of things. So what do you get out of the volunteer experience? What do you take away?
Well, lifelong friendships. There's so many. I recognized years ago, thanks to many of the friends we meet at CFMA, that this is an opportunity to give back to industry. I learned a lot about construction. I learned a practical side of construction. I am not a financially motivated or inclined or skilled person. As a risk management professional, I always joke about doing all the non-financial aspects of risk. I did the human risk, and what I got out of CFMA was a partnership. I learned how to sell risk management concepts to the C-suite. And I learned about human capital risk management. I had an opportunity to share perspectives. I was embraced. My ideas were different. And I just marvel at the affirmation I received as a professional for the risks I was taking to bring new knowledge. So what I got out of this was lifelong friendships and an opportunity to make an impact. I developed this written voice through building profits, and then my spoken voice through the conference and chapter presentations. And I got so much more out of CFMA than I even put in. It's not a tagline, it's a reality. We get so much more out of our volunteering.
Yeah. When you volunteer, you definitely it adds so much to your experience and education and membership. That's definitely, my experience too. Well, I am really excited because I get to see you next week. First on Wednesday at the AGC Northwest Ohio Too Tough to Talk.
I'm excited.
Seminar. I'm excited about that. That's quite an opportunity. And then the next day at the CFMA Regional Buckeye Conference.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be back in the Buckeye State. I know that's where you live. The Too Tough to Talk is through AGC of Northwest Ohio. They're so honored that you are local and that you're going to be the keynote speaker. And I think it's powerful to see their excitement about having you come and join us.
Well, I think they're excited about having you come and join us too.
Well, then the two of us, but in the Buckeye Conference, boy, it's been many years since I've been to that conference live. I'm really excited to see some old friends.
We're excited to have you.
Thanks a lot, Pam.
Well, this has been a really great conversation. Typically about this time, we will ask viewers a question, but this time, since September is Suicide Prevention Month, we're going to ask that viewers visit preventconstructionsuicide.com and take the pledge. So that's preventsuicideconstruction.com. Go in there, read about it, take the pledge. Thanks, Cal, so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
I'm so excited, Pam. Thank you for your friendship over the years, and thanks for taking time for this chat.
Absolutely. So tune in next month for our next episode of Chat with the Chairman. I'll be visiting with the chair and vice chair of the Subspecialty Trade Committee. That's John Bieber and Sean Erickson. So stay tuned for that.